Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. Welcome to the newly renovated McGuire Memorial Hall, the original arts wing of Richmond High School. I am Sean Dingworth, Executive Director of the Richmond Art Museum. It is my pleasure to start our program. I will soon be introducing Jeff Carter, who will interview Maestro Andrés Lopera. Dedicated on December 7th, 1941, Pearl Harbor Day, McGuire Memorial Hall housed the Richmond High School Orchestra, the band, choir, and the Art Association of Richmond. I still don't know how they all fit, and with just 2 bathrooms. Today is about not only honoring our past, but looking to our bright future for the arts in our community. The Richmond Art Museum and the Richmond Symphony Orchestra have partnered many times over the years to highlight our progress and celebrate how fortunate we are to have you, our supporters, who are vital for us to bring culture to the greater Richmond area. We are blessed to have so many fine arts organizations in our small town. Both the creation of RAM and the RSO was visionary of the previous generations who wanted something better for the next generation by creating these arts organizations. RAM, founded in 1898, is concluding our 125th year. The RSO was organized in 1956, with origins going back as far as 1908. Our long-standing heritage is a testament to all of those who supported us and those of you who today continue to support us. As part of today's celebration, RAM, with the help of an anonymous donor, was able to commission these 4 murals, which represent our cultural and industrial heritage, which are directly linked. A gateway to the West, the National Road contributed to trade and unprecedented industrial growth in Richmond, providing essential employment for artists in our community. To our knowledge, RAM is the only public art museum in the nation housed within an active public high school. Today, we reach nearly 4,000 students annually, and for many students in our region, RAM is the only art museum they will ever get to visit. Admission-free since 1898, RAM has just been awarded the Governor's Arts Award, the highest honor the stage gives in the arts. RAM has a dedicated staff and devoted board of trustees, many of whom are here tonight, thank you. And we have the best supporters, all of you, thank you. Richmond Community Schools is also the birthplace of the first high school orchestra in America in 1900. The plaque in the foyer recognizes this important distinction. It is also recognition of how important the arts were to Richmond Community Schools and to the curriculum. Today, with your help, both organizations continue to supplement school curriculum and introduce young people to the arts. When I came here 25 years ago, I was not given a key to this auditorium. Rather, McGuire Hall had fallen into disrepair, and Civic Hall in Tiernan had taken center stage for productions and assemblies. Under the direction of this administration and staff, the McGuire Memorial Hall is now renovated. With the help of the Redevelopment Commission, Richmond Community Schools, Richmond Art Museum, and our generous anonymous donor, we have now brought this beautiful auditorium back to life for community use. Let's give a round of applause. It was always a personal vision to place art in the auditorium, a place previously devoid of any art. Surprisingly, as a WPA project, it lacked a mural or any placement of art in the auditorium itself. Today, we now have 4 exquisite panels depicting our past artists and those who are still working in the art field. I would like to take just a few minutes to go through each panel with a brief description. We are working on finalizing a permanent description key and biographies of those who are represented in the murals. Now, to be clear, we could not begin to include everyone from Richmond or RCS who went on to make a career in the arts. So to that end, we will be working with Richmond Community School students to continue to add to the biographies of artists from Richmond. As mentioned, through an anonymous donor, we commissioned mural artist, Richmond artist Amy Reinhardt, a Richmond High School graduate, to paint these large murals based upon research we did about current and past artists who were either born, lived, or graduated from Richmond. As a student at IU Bloomington, my favorite place was Woodburn Hall, which featured the Thomas Hart Benton murals. It was my goal to have Amy incorporate Thomas Hart Benton's style with her style to make the murals feel as if they were part of the original building. I hope you are all as pleased with them as I am. If I could now turn your attention to the south panel. The top of the panel represents what early Richmond looked like with the covered bridge across the Whitewater River and Gorge. Key highlights in this mural include Daniel Reed, the 10-plate king, who never forgot Richmond, building both Reed Health, the YMCA, the Reed Memorial Presbyterian Church, and providing $500 annually for the Art Association to buy a major work of art. Reed is looking at a sculpture by former high school art teacher, Tom Bartle. The plein air artists who founded the museum and still work today outdoors while painting are represented in the upper left. Other artists include India Cruz Griffin by her work on the museum wall to the right, Greg Hall, who is now Dean of Heron, by his paper airplanes and his umbrella installation. If any of you have been through the Indianapolis airport and you've seen the umbrellas, those are by Greg Hall. The roses to the left are a nod to Hill's Floral Products when Richmond was known as the Richmond Rose City. Directly below in panel 2 represents our depot building built by the famed architect Daniel Burnham. The Phantascope motion picture device invented by C. Francis Jenkins, Jeanette Records, and Star Piano. In the background, we see the Wayne County Courthouse and the Richmond Baking Company. The Quigg family has been an integral part of the growth of the arts in our community, including Richmond Civic Theater. Both the Wright brothers attended Richmond schools, and Orville Wright was a student of our first director, Ella Bond Johnston. If you now turn your attention to the north wall, we see the McGuire Building and the representation of the Pearl Harbor attack with the planes, smoke, and flag at half-mast. This is not the recent plastic fire. The school bus represents not only Wayne Works, a former major employer, but that we are located in a school. We recognize Richmond Community Schools being the birthplace of the first high school orchestra, with Joseph Matty conducting. Matty went on to be the founder of Interlochen in Michigan. In the center is a portrait of Charles McGuire, whose $50,000 gift to build this building made it possible for the Art Association of Richmond to have a permanent home. Finally, Elizabeth Reller, an American actress best known for her work in old-time radio, and was active between the years of 1935 until 1938. Panel 4 below represents numerous artists, actors, and musicians. We notice conductor Jack Everly performing at the Symphony on the Prairie in his traditional white jacket. Jazz drummers Jeff Hamilton and Harold Jones. Baby Huey's on stage, and more recent grads like Katie Ryman and Jessica Lakoff Cannon are represented for their work in film, cinematography, and animation. To the left, George Dooning was an American musician and film composer born in Richmond and studied at the Cincinnati Conservatory of Music. Of course, I rarely do a talk without mentioning our most famous painting by artist William Merritt Chase, who is standing in front of an easel. It is said he always kept a blank canvas in his studio and told visitors he was about to paint his masterpiece. It took him almost as long to finish his self-portrait as it did to have the auditorium and these murals completed. And then lastly, represented, the famed artist Robert Indiana is represented by the painting of circles on the back wall. Even though Indiana was born in Newcastle, he was taken care of as an infant by the Coleman family in Richmond and personally considered Richmond his home, visiting often. I am thrilled to have the opportunity to share these murals with you and the chance to partner again with RSO. Monica, thank you. Two organizations who are making a difference in our community and in the lives of our children. Thank you to Monica for her vision and to all of you who came out this evening to support our endeavors. And it is now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Jeff Carter.
Thanks, Sean. So Sean mentioned that he's been in the community 25 years. So I've only been in the community a decade, and it seems like it was just yesterday. My dad moved here at the same time. He's in the audience, and he said, let's go to the Symphony, soon after moving here to this community. And I thought, well, the Symphony moved from outside of Washington, D.C., and we went to the RSO, and I was just absolutely amazed. And like these murals, the more you dig into the history of Richmond, you just realize the commitment to the arts and how we have flourished as we've worked together to spread the good news, not only of the arts, but of our history, from recorded jazz to this place and the stage. And Jack Everly, when he was telling the story of singing Hello, Dolly, and that was kind of the start of things, just amazing stories. Well, tonight we're continuing in the storytelling as we have with us Maestro Andrés Lopera. And so it's wonderful. Will you welcome Andrés? So we went through an exciting process. If you were around the RSO the last few years, an exciting process of having a number of guest conductors come in through an interview process, and we interviewed on the other stage, and then the performances and moving around the community, and then you were selected. And now you're halfway through your first concert season. But before we talk about the concert season, I want to go back to the beginning. And I want you to share a bit about how you fell in love with music, what it was like in Colombia with your parents, and coming into just your love of music and how it's led to, well, this moment, being on stage as Maestro.
Well, first of all, thank you, Jeff, for that introduction. Hello, everybody. It's such a incredible time to be here with you, and especially getting to know more and more about the history of a town that is so precious. I'm still learning about the entire history of music and arts here, but I take it very seriously, very responsible that I was chosen by you and by the community to serve as the new music director of your incredible Richmond Symphony. And it's something that is very special to be able to share music with a community. I always see the orchestra as a service organization. We service the musical needs and the inspiration needs from all of us humans that we love to be inspired by sounds. So first of all, my name is Andrés Lopera. I know it's kind of like a funny name to pronounce, right? You can try Lopera. But I am from Colombia, the youngest of 7 kids. But yeah, I'm from this little tiny town called Don Matias, which is in the middle of the mountains in the Andes. The next closest city will be Medellin. So I started in music with something called El Proyecto de Bandas Nacionales, which was like a national project to give kids this opportunity to embrace music, because the slogan was, if a kid ever embraces music, it will never embrace violence. It was a change, it was a way to create change, cultural change within the small towns of the country. I was very lucky because there was a girl that invited my brother to go to the band. And my brother's like, yeah, I don't like that, but my younger brother will go. As all of the older siblings, they were like, okay, well, I guess I go. The kids that like to sing in the family parties, so they will make me go there. So I encountered trombone, and it was this instrument that people didn't really like. But like trombone, but to me it was the best thing that happened to me because it's closer to like the strings, the trombone, because it has a slide. It's like a fingerboard somehow. So it made me learn a lot about like ear training. So my teacher started trusting me with he will give me CDs and just like, okay, write this. So we'll be going home, just listen to the music and write it in the paper for the band to play, which I thought it was, of course it's normal, but apparently it was a good talent to have. But yeah, that's how I started. One of the key things that made me keep going was the incredible energy that is always around people when they are listening to music. It's this moment that we let ourselves just like go into something bigger, or regardless of what type of music. It doesn't have to be orchestral music, but like that moment where you're in the car, just enjoy your own music. They're just like, yes, and it's like this personal moment that you can share. But being on stage at that age and going around playing in different towns, and I played jazz, I played salsa, I played merengue music. I didn't start at classical. that was how then I started getting this curiosity. But understanding this, that people say that music is the international language, and that it's great that people were happy around music and inspired this emotion. So that's how I started, and just got me to keep looking into that. And now, many years after, many countries after, many orchestras after, moving from trombone to viola to piano to conducting, here I am.
Well, there's two things I just love. That one is music is the international language. I was just traveling internationally, and we heard music just kind of roaring through this town we were in, and we knew something immediately was happening. And it was upbeat and lively, so we knew it was good.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that if a child chooses music, they won't choose violence. And if we know anything about the history of Medellin and Colombia, that's a profound statement to say if a student chooses music, they won't choose violence.
Yeah.
So a little bit of a timeout. If you're thinking about a question that you might have, you will have an opportunity to ask it. So just kind of tuck that away. We're going to spend a good portion of this time together taking questions from the audience. So if something piques your curiosity, just hold it and we'll have a time for question and answer. But I get to have the questions right now. And I'm wondering about the shift from playing the trombone and viola and piano to conducting.
Yes.
So moving from being on the stage to being in front of the stage. What does that mean for you?
Yeah, well, just on the back of the stage, I saw the guy. I was like, I can do it better. How we know how that thought? Kidding. I don't know.
I actually don't think you're kidding.
I don't know.
But that's okay.
I think I might have been crazy. I have no idea how. Like, well, I do have. So I was very lucky because when I was 14, I won my first national prize. I won a national solo competition. Because my parents did not want me to study music at the beginning. And then after that, I was like, okay, well, maybe. Maybe you might have a future in this. I mean, my parents, we're all from a small town, so they had the image of the musician as like the guy perhaps playing in the corner or just like playing some, for whatever. But then I started to being very interested in going to college for this. And I was lucky to be the valedictorian of the school, and I had a scholarship. So I ended up going to a very, very good school that opened a lot of doors for me. But in being able to get into college and seeing what was happening with all of the other instruments, because I grew up only with a band, I didn't have the knowledge of a lot of things. Especially the classical composers. It was something that I didn't really know up until like 16 years old, 17. So I just got very curious. I was very curious about how a human, just like you and I, can have this way of expressing true sounds that can be so intentional, so deep, that regardless of many things, can just inspire an emotion in people. I was just, woof. And this goes through many years of history. It's like what we're seeing here in the murals, but that is just written in music. And so I was first very curious, because also a lot of things in music are just mathematics and physics, and how the waves go together, how everything is a time signature, and it's sounds that go through specific beats, and how that kind of gets your heartbeat racing or slowing down, depending on the melody that you're listening. So I was very curious about that. I knew that I had a lot of learning to do. Um, and then the conductor of the orchestra saw me, and she's like, you might want to. I was like, can I start conducting? And she is a female conductor, which it was very new, very like trailblazing for Colombia. Her name is Cecilia Espinosa. She's like, yeah, you might want to do this. Also, because trombones, when you play, you see the trombones in the orchestra, they're usually like in the back, right? So the strings are always working. And you're just in the back, and I was just like looking at the scores while they were rehearsing. I was like, oh, wow, so this is how it works. So I was just out of curiosity and wanting to learn more about these nuances of each instrument, because each instrument, how many of you, let me see a show of hands, how many of you play an instrument? Good. How many of you sing? Right. And we all have a heartbeat, right? So we all have that feeling of a rhythm and this connection to music, to sound somehow. But the nuances of knowing an instrument is something that is very kind of like introspective. You have to have this alone time with the sound, just trying to learn it and then connect it with the culture and what everybody's to do a greater purpose when you're connecting the orchestra. So I was just very curious, and yeah, I love that. And I love the educational aspect of it too.
Yeah.
It was great to see, like, then they started conducting youth orchestras. And I call it the shining eyes moments, because when you see a kid that is going through a piece of music, and then you tell them this something, this one thing that just clicks, and you see their eyes going like, it's like a shining eye moment. It's really exciting.
Well, I think all of us that were on that first concert had a shining eye moment. And I'm curious, I think you felt the emotion when you began with the national anthem. And it was a pretty amazing moment if you were there, because the audience just broke into song, right? And I was watching you, and you then started doing this, and I thought you were caught up in the emotion as well. I mean, it was a special moment, yes? And in that energy, and clearly, whether we could sing or not, we were all singing. Our heart was definitely beating. So tell me about the vision for this concert season that you were coming in with as the new maestro. What was your vision in putting all this together, knowing the role of a musician, the role of a conductor, and obviously the role of an audience? What were you thinking?
What was I thinking?
What were you thinking?
So like, what were I thinking? Well, I took it as an incredible responsibility just to be the fourth music director. I really wanted to know, because within my philosophy is to serve the community. So it's to like really get to know the community and what we can do that will be more impactful. And for that, I have had the great guidance of Monica, who, yes, and the staff of the orchestra, because I really don't want to reinvent the wheel. So it's kind of like, want to see what works and what things can we do to satisfy the community and enhance what the orchestra can provide. Starting with the national anthem was something that we always do when we start the season with the orchestra. I always think it's a good moment to reflect, because if you see the orchestra, we're a lot of people from many different countries, from many different aspects of life. But I think the national anthem gives this equalizer moment and this moment of reflecting, like we're here. Um, yeah, and you gotta be grateful for it.
It really does kind of draw everyone together then as we move on to the rest of the concert. As you think about each one in the first half of the season, each concert, you have had a vision. I mean, you've had a theme for each concert, you've had a vision, and then you've selected your special artists for a particular reason.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you share a bit about the first half of the season and what you were hoping to really communicate?
Yeah, that's great. So the first concert we called it All About Friends, because we wanted to get all of our friends in the concert hall, showcasing a piece called Enigma Variation by Edward Elgar, which is little musical sketches of his friends. And then it's just like, if you think about, and it's storytelling through music. So like, we have friends that have different like things. We all have like either walk a certain way or sound a certain way, or you know. So I thought it was a very nice way to connect and let people relate to the story of this composer and his friends. We started also with Carnival Overture, which celebrated the life of a human being and the exciting moments of that. And we did Liszt Preludes, which is about the stars and all of the elements. Then our second concert was also very important because talking with Monica and with our incredible board, and there's a need in the community to connect with the youth and to connect with the families and give kids this space to be kids during a symphony concert. That is not that you just have to be sitting there and just listening, because it's not something that we do too much. You know, we're in a bit world, so creating the Halloween concert was a great experience. It was very nice that some people even kind of like did not necessarily knew that it was going to be a Halloween concert. So you had a mix in the audience of people that were totally dressed up. I saw a family like all in ogre costume, like with green painting all around, and then an entire family with pirates. I love that because it's a family costumes, and it does exactly it. To create these frameworks that a masterwork concert is for one thing, family concerts give this space to be in a different type of a space also, but without diminishing any of the impact, the artistic impact of what the musicians can do. So that was very exciting, and also connecting with the Richmond High School and the drum line, which was really nice, that they agreed to come and be the opener for our concert. So it was very nice. Then our next concert after that was in November, which, you know, November usually is Thanksgiving, so we're all thinking about food, right? So we had this celebration of Spain and Italy, great cuisines, but also connected with music. So Rossini, one of the composers that we played, L'Italiani Nigeri, he was also a chef and a painter. One of these people that can just do it all. But we had an incredible soloist, Saida, which is a guitar player. Did you guys come to the concert in November at all? Some of you? Great. How many of you have seen a guitar concerto? Guitar concerto was sort of new, right? You've seen one? Good. But it was very exciting, so for me, it was important to celebrate women on stage. And also with a guitar concerto that is sort of new and different, and celebrating the music from Spain. So it's always had been kind of very intentional. Now we did a Christmas concert in December, and now we're just getting ready for Love and Fate that is coming up, which is gonna be all about romance, and playing the Rachmaninoff Piano Concerto No. 2, which is an exquisite piece of music with an incredible pianist, Zhu Wang, which is gonna be incredible, and then Tchaikovsky Symphony No. 4, which is an incredible piece of music which is something called the faith motif that I will tell you all about it when you come to the concert, so I don't
You're not going to
keep
tell us
talking too
now?
much. You have to save something for like the concert, right?
What I love is your thoughtfulness. You are so thoughtful about every aspect of a concert. Why a guitarist? And why a classical guitarist who's female? And so you're communicating so much, not just in the music you select, but the way you then orchestrate, literally, orchestrate the evening for us, so that we're learning as we're audience members.
So
which
that's
is
what.
great.
So that's when you were saying the first thing of like as a conductor, how do you plan all of this, knowing the audience, the orchestra, and the needs? I think having the stage is is an important thing to understand. When you're on a stage, I'm right now having the pleasure and the opportunity from this stage to share and to get your attention. From the stage, from the orchestra, giving the platform to different artists to communicate what now the artistic world sounds and to bring it to the community is important to know that stage, to what that is an opportunity to celebrate different cultures, not all of the pieces of music that have survived the test of time are very important. And so they all have a message to be shared. And all message can be within the context that is presented because music connects past, present, and future. And so it's very important to me.
And it's the international language, as
Yeah.
you said. We all can connect to music at some point. So if you think about, your I don't know how many months in this community and such, what are some just pleasant surprises as you've been around talking with folks and working in the schools and such? What's kind of surprised you?
Well, there has been many. There has been many. It's been incredible. You guys have an incredible community. Okay, where to start? The first one. The first one that was very interesting is like, I wanted to bring my dad and my mom to the concert, to the opening concert, but they live in Colombia, they don't speak English, and they are 78 and 79 years old. So I was like, if I bring them here, it will be harder for them, and it will be sort of like an egotistical moment for me, just like, I don't need them to have to go through all of that because having to be at the concert hall alone and all of that. But I did wanted to like share the moment with them. Weirdly as it has, I have had concerts around the world. Like I've been in many places, Europe, China, a lot of places. And I have met Colombians. But here at that concert, there was one person from my town and that was
Here in Richmond?
yes,
Yeah.
that he lived in my town, that was able to share while the concert was happening some videos with the mayor of the town that then go to my dad and my mom. I was like, what?
That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing.
How would that happen?
Yeah.
So that's surprise number one.
And to say how proud they must be of you,
Yeah.
in order for someone to say, he's from my hometown and shares that video, and then the mayor shares it with your family. I mean, Andres, that's pretty special.
Yeah, I know.
They're definitely proud of you.
And that's what I love it. Like, yeah, I'm a family guy. My family is the best.
All right, second surprise.
But second surprise, going to, was with you, Monica, right? That we went to a restaurant, and I don't remember exactly where it was, but the waitress was so excited about the concert. She was like, "We went to your concert," or like, and something like the musicians usually have lunch here, and they're talking such good things. It's like they're all excited about the concert. They all want to be there, and like we want to know more about you. That what I like about that. It's like if the waitress is talking about this, like those are the voices that I want to be excited about music. It's very special. So for them to like, and I do create this space to be able to talk. If you have any questions, and I have an accent, and sometimes I talk fast, so I try to slow myself down. But for our pre-concert talks, that has been another part. People come and we have an active dialogue about the pieces. And some people have kind of like, oh, we need to know the music, or like we need to understand what's happening, like we need to, all of these things. And I invite everybody to let loose, let me worry about that. Let me worry about uh, anything that you need to know. Just come here, we have a conversation about it, and you'll get to know it, and you get to enjoy music. Or don't try to understand the music too hard. Just let your body live through it and enjoy it. Like when you're eating a delicious food, without having to worry about each one of the ingredients, you just let that taste go into your. You're a foodie, huh?
Yeah, I
I can
understand.
see that face.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yes,
my daughter's a pastry chef, and so she'll say you can deconstruct it, but it's better in the construction, right?
Exactly.
Because you get more out of it. Give me a third surprise, and then I want to ask you about all these young people that are coming to concerts these days.
And another great surprise was going to the schools. I talked with the Amigos group, which was really nice to hear the different Latinos that are in the audience, and how we have reached so many new audiences that will come to our concerts, and that they will just come and say hi to me in Spanish, or see how excited they are to have somehow their voices represented also while I am conducting. But in going to the schools, and we went to the Quaker school, and one of the students also, I remember him vividly coming to rehearsal. And and he kind of like just stood up in the corner. And I will see him, but his face was going through everything that it was happening musically. So it was very exciting to see the younger mind just sort of computing all of that information that is music, and being excited about it. So the youth definitely has been a very important part of what I do. So it's great to see the youth that you have here in Richmond.
And I love it being at the concert. Some of you have kids that come to the concert, and to see them beforehand and say, what are you expecting, or what are you hoping to see? And then trying to catch up with those same kids afterwards and say, well, what did you experience? And often, just the smiles and the excitement, far more talkative afterwards than before. But I want to stay with that for a moment. There are a lot of kids coming to performances, which is just fantastic. Part of the mission of the RSO is to inspire a rising generation of music lovers, really focused on children and young adults, to inspire them to really maybe pick up an instrument, but definitely be lifelong lovers of music. What is your vision for your engagement with young people, and what do you want them to really grab hold of through the performances with the RSO, but then also for many of the educational programs?
Ooh, how much time do you have?
Yeah, well.
So first of all, I'm going from the departure of knowing the town, knowing what's happening. And I had the pleasure to come here to the Richmond High School and work with the orchestra. So it was nice to see like where they are. Then I think music has different avenues, but for kids and teenagers, the most important is this feeling outlet. Because sometimes what I tell them specifically about orchestral music is that by the fact that it doesn't have words, we're not telling you what to feel. You can feel.
That's an interesting thought, right?
Yeah, you can feel whatever you want, and just being able to let just the sounds access to your body, and so bringing young people to the music, to the world of sounds, is important. And then there's a lot of things that then in embracing a musical instrument that help incredibly change the society that we have, because there's many different parts of, how do you say this in English? Like the inter the interactions, or like the mental learnings. Like you have your memories, like you have the physical memory that you have to do when you learn an instrument. You have to learn the physical memory of what positions are. Then you have to have your audio memory, because every position you have to relate it to a sound. So your brain is computing actions with sound. And then when you put in that and the sound connected to the collective, so how do you connect that as a community? That's what we all do. We have to work in harmony with each other and see how all of this orchestra is like a microcosmos of, of society. So it's a great outlet for kids to be able to, then when you connect with the collective, this sound memory, physical memory, then you go to the emotional memory. So it's a lot of growth that you can create with that. And it's very internal, because music is just so personal, what everybody goes through when performing a piece of music. And the challenges too, because it's challenging to be able to just get into it. And it takes time. So it's just so many little things.
But when you get it right and it clicks and you're connected,
Yeah.
that goes back to one of your original statements that when a child embraces music, they don't embrace violence. Because
Yeah.
in embracing music, you realize how connected you are to one another, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to ask one more question. So be thinking about the question that you have, because we have microphones and such. So next will be anyone in the audience who wants to ask a question. So you think about the musicians that are on stage. A lot of them are young. When I'm up around the musicians, I just realize that we've got a real young bass that's playing in the RSO. What's your goal for the musicians that are in the RSO? Because we pull from a variety of locations, and some of them are students. What are you hoping that they gain out of their experience as members of the RSO?
So there's a couple of things to that question. First of all, when a musicians, regardless of their age, are coming to perform with the RSL, they're a professional level. So it's not that you're young or old. You are proficient and professional in what you're be expected to do. So it's not about age. I'm saying that because I had to go through that. Not now, but before. I remember like 10 years ago, I had the opportunity to have an audition with the New York Philharmonic, and for an assistant conductor position. And I remember me in my upper 20s, 29, I was like, what do I have to say to the New York Philharmonic?
As a 29-year-old, right?
So it's like, what do I do? And is that young self, you know? And then I realized that it took me a lot of mistakes and a lot of self-doubt, because nobody tells you this, especially when your family is not a musician. But it's not about being young or being old. It's about being able to create music or not at the level that you're proficient. And I knew those musicians for the New York Philharmonic will see me like, well, but you have, what you're creating the music from the composer is an elevated statement, more than being young or being old. But with that in mind, I think the most important thing that I keep seeing, especially in terms of youth, the part that we can utilize or like expand on this is seeing how can young musicians, young performers can also inspire people that look like them, sound like them, live through similar connections like them, that are performing well in an iPad, not in a music stand, and that they can connect with different, or connect the sounds and the inspiration of the sounds to newer versions of things, or to new connections with the younger audiences. So that would be more like the part that I want to do. And then in years come to be embracing the community, so we can create more musicians from the town that will perform with the orchestra, and just make it more from here for the people from here. But yeah, that's kind of like the thought process. It's just the first season, so a lot of things to come.
I got to keep reminding myself it is just the first season with you, and already so much has happened. So, what questions do you have for Maestro Lopera? And we have microphones, and Gretchen all the way in the back.
Can you hear me now?
Sure, I can hear you, and I'll repeat your question.
I'm just curious, I'm curious how you get so much out of the orchestra. Because we've seen a transformation with your coming as conductor, and I just don't know, how do you do that? How do you get so much out of the orchestra?
Is there a volume knob? I mean, you know, you do. You get so much out of the orchestra. Gretchen's good question. How do you get all that energy and sound and enthusiasm as a conductor?
Well, thank you for the question, Gretchen. Nice to meet you. I have no idea.
There you go. It's a mystery.
No, I think it's exactly what I just told you about the age too. I don't think myself as bigger or smaller than any of the musicians that are there. I think they grew up to play this instrument. You know how much time it gets to be able to do what they do, what we do, it's a lot. So my job in the podium is to make them shine. Because they are really great, but because of time and because not being together all the time, they really need a leader that they can trust with their sound. And in the process of music making, we go through like very nuances of what the energy of the music, or like the sound or the textures that we want to create. Rehearsals are very fun. So I will dare say that the idea is to connect with that young self, that energy that makes you really go for music and really create music. I remember, I think it was Mary around here that she just like came to one of my rehearsals, and it's like, oh, when you stop the orchestra and you tell them this and this and this, the sound just changes. And I was like, yeah, that's the job. It was like, oh, well, it doesn't seem like it was what was happening before. But that has been a comment that it was also exciting to me, that some people who are like no relation with sound as I do, they will come to rehearsal and say like, oh, I really heard that differently. And so I think that's where the energy comes from. And I'm just excited to be with them, and I think they're excited to be with me and having this energy of the music that we can bring to you. So I think everybody's excited.
Well, and clearly you're listening. I mean, you're listening to them, you're wanting to improve the sound, and then they're responding. So it's relational.
Yes.
I mean, it's all relational,
Yes.
and there's interest on both parts. And we clearly hear that when we're listening in the audience. So other questions? It's a good starter. Yeah, George.
Because that was a great question that Gretchen answered. I believe your energy level is probably natural. But when did you realize that it had an influence in the results from the orchestra? And have you had to develop it and harness it, actually make it something that you've actually developed?
So always energetic. The question is, when did you realize this energy, and how did you harness it so that it could be directed?
That's a great question. Because somehow, somewhat, I always been just like very intense about music. And there have been moments that has worked against me. Like in my younger years, not knowing how to control that, I will go with a lot of energy, and then I will realize that the sound was cracking, or like the orchestra did not know what to do with that sound. Because remember, like we as conductors, the orchestra is like a microsecond behind. Like they're all receiving your energy and going through your energy, unless they just want to tune you out, which they can do. and sometimes they're like, oh, well, bye. and, and they just take it. And there's some times that it's important to do that. That's why like the strings will be like, okay, and they just connect with the strings while the conductor is doing something with the brass or something else. But it is as the same thing of talking sometimes too fast, being able to control the energy or like, I don't know, I'm kind of like naturally excited. Just because I love what I do is such a pleasure. It's such a unique opportunity to be able to present this in the world. I talked to Jeff that I really like the word in English that is conductor. Because in Spanish it's director orquestal, like orchestra director. But conductor, I like this aspect of conductivity, or to be a conduit. And with music is being a conduit of energy, to be able to transform the energy of all of these musicians that go through me and goes to the audience. But to be able to tailor it, because sometimes, like in the slow moments, or like in the very passionate, soft things, there's also a lot of energy, but it's a different type of tension. And just getting to know the life of the composers, getting to know what they intended with the music, and how then you get to make that yours and present it through the orchestra is, I think, what keeps me excited. And having a way, like a clear thought of what the sound that you want them to create, then they have a buy-in to like, okay, this is the way that we want to do it, and they get energized about it. So that's sort of the process.
It's a great question. I love the orchestra's just a millisecond behind you, because that's what I watch. I watch for like your grand moves, and then you hear the orchestra respond. And then when you quiet things and hear them respond, and I love that millisecond difference in watching both your conducting and then their response.
And
very much a relationship.
it's just like an orchestra, when they're all on stage, it's like a live organism. Like they all breathe together, like they have to move together. This is so physical, because you have to create the sound physically. And I tell them the instrument is just exactly that. It's an instrument, but the sound is your voice. Like that's their vehicle of expression, but it just has to be an instrument. The musician is the person. So being able to connect like that, like when you get to a different orchestra, that's what is very interesting about a conductor search, or like a conducting audition. Like in any musician's audition, they usually are usually behind a curtain, and they play their sounds, and they go through different rounds to this or that. And if they're advanced, it's all about the sound. But with a conductor audition, you cannot have like a thing that you just put your hands out, right? You have to be in front of the entire orchestra. It's like going on a blind date with 100 people. And they're all there. And they're all knowing what they're gonna do, but it's just the energy. Like it's a weird connection. It's like you connect with them and they connect with you, or you definitely don't connect with them and they don't connect with you. It's like if you're invited to a second date, then that's the thing. But like the first one, and that's the weird thing about a conductor. You can only just be you. It either works or doesn't, but you have to be just you and relate to the community. But what is interesting also, last part of that, is like when you go to an orchestra, right? You come in, it's the entire orchestra, and you do this, you don't know where the sound is gonna come. So that's like a pan, like pan, pan. So orchestras, as the conductor, they have their own way to connect with you. It's very interesting.
Well, those of us that went through the interview process, having the different guest conductors come, we saw that. We saw the relationship between the guest conductor and the symphony. We heard the sound. We also saw the difference in personalities with each one, which I just found that absolutely fascinating. I don't want to do it again anytime soon, Monica, but I found it absolutely fascinating and a great learning experience as an audience member. What other questions do we have? Things you're wondering? Yeah.
I'm David Gretchen's husband.
I wasn't going to out you and say that you've got two questions from the same family, but that's all right.
I apologize for that. Gretchen and I moved here 2.5 years ago. We lived in London, in England, for almost a decade. We heard the best orchestras, saw the best conductors, and when we first came to the RSO, I'm sorry to say this, it was okay. But under your direction, it's like we're hearing a new orchestra. So that's not really a question. I just wanted to say that. Also, in graduate school, I studied conducting. You make it sound so simple, but it isn't. You have to learn the score and you really learn it, and then communicate with the orchestra. I was rubbish at it. I just think you're amazing.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks a lot. What's funny is when you do it in a second language.
So David has an interesting point, knowing conducting. Can you just share a bit with the audience about what happens behind the scenes? Because it's not just picking out music and then showing up and doing rehearsals. There's a number of other pieces that happen behind the scenes as you prepare for a concert working with the orchestra.
So before I get into that, what David said that it was also very interesting, and Monica talked about this. I'm pretty particular about the wording that I use for one thing or another thing, and how words mean one thing or another. Back in the day, the word is very important. Like, you give your word about something, and that's your contract. Knowing like how to word things for the musicians to like, because these are all concepts, and the concept of a sound, like you're gonna say a wide sound, that means different things for different people, or like a very internal sound, or more than just the mechanics, being able to know the score and create in wordings what one thing means or another is interesting. And funny note, we were just creating some marketing material, and I was fine saying things in English, and then I went back to Spanish, and I just get blocked. Is it strange when you do things in both parts? But also, I think it's something that you really keep maturing with, in terms of like knowing these words. Music has something very incredible that is, orchestral music has this. It's different than, for instance, in other type of performing arts, theater, when you cannot do this in painting, but like if you have 20 people speaking at the same time, the same thing, you probably don't understand. What do you understand, one or another? Unless you're talking to my family. They all talk at the same time, but I think that was good practice now that I think about it. But in music, your brain is able to understand 3 melodies happening at the same time. When the orchestra is playing it, you understand, oh, this is happening here, And it's an understanding of your brain, but in preparing the score, what as a conductor you do is like you have a stage. Again, but that's important because I let some textures from the orchestra come in out and some bring back in. And they do know, like as a musician, because there's different parts, right? There's the harmony, there's the rhythm, there's the melody, there's counter melodies. There's a lot of nuances that we don't need to get in detail with. But as a performer, you know which one of these layers technically you are playing at that moment. But as a conductor, having the stage is being able to, in what proportion you get one thing and one out, and how this all creates a big picture.
And how you can hear it all at the same time. Working with Darren on the brass concert, I was amazed at just the detail he was putting into just the narration that I was providing. And I thought, how in the world are you focused on this when you've got all these other pieces? And yet that's what a conductor does. They're able to see the whole among the many parts. What other questions do you have? Things you wonder? Monica?
I get a lot of time with Andres. But one time after the first concert in September, be interesting if you answer the same. I was really surprised by your answer. Someone asked you, what is your favorite type of music?
So what's your favorite type of music?
What did I say?
What?
You said silence.
Yeah, like somebody told me like what music did I hear at home? I usually don't listen to anything. I just prefer to be. I think silence is so loud sometimes. Silence is the loudest thing. Sometimes we live in such an outside world, and we like because of media and because all of this, we are so forced to put all of this energy outside, how we present ourselves, how like the social media, the things. So to be able to bring it inside, to have this inside energy and this stoic type of moment, just to like be able to bring quietness and silence. And that's where this other part of the energy comes from, because that's like my way of like reconnecting with myself. And I love quiet. And yeah, that's a weird thing because when I go to Colombia, I just went to Colombia. They know that I have to be like in a room for like a day and a half before like I have to, because it's a different rhythm. Everybody just speaks loud. Like it's a lot of density, a lot of things happening at once. I'm like, oh, okay, I need a second. Yeah, but
I mean, to that point about silence, when you conclude a piece and you're just standing there with the orchestra, that is the loudest silence, right? The gap between songs and just kind of the pause that's there and the emotion that hangs in that moment. And so you,
isn't that beautiful?
yeah, it's great. And then you lower your hands and we all get to applaud.
Yeah.
But there's that moment.
Mhm.
What are you thinking in those moments? I'm just curious.
So
In that pause.
So there's no one answer, of course, because every piece is different. But music, when you create music, also goes through an acoustic space. So sometimes letting it go, letting it sit, letting each one of those waves just like disappear, and just like letting a moment of just this realization of like this just happened, and having a space to process it, like to not just jump in and to like to let your body feel it. So yeah, it's kind of that. It depends. Some triumphant moments that are very much different than this quiet and just very like, because when I'm on stage, I'm sharing a lot through all of these people. The orchestra is sort of like your vehicle of expression, which is really weird. That as a conductor, you're the musician that don't create any sounds, right? But you have this access to all of this talent, and to be able to manage it and to give this space at the end, or like within phrases, because that's music. It's phrases, musical phrases, and that's diction and punctuation in all of that. So it's part of that feeling that you get.
I think in my next quiet moment, I'm going to be thinking about these pearls of wisdom that he's dropping on us, like this idea of you're the only one not creating music. I mean, creating a sound.
Yeah.
In all this music, you're silent, and yet it all kind of hinges around you and your leading. Think
Isn't
about
that
for a
weird?
while. Yeah, it is weird. It is weird. What other questions do you have? Yes.
On the Christmas concert, you introduced Jingle Bells by saying it was an homage to Richmond, the birthplace of jazz. And then it was a really wonderful arrangement. And I'm wondering, was that your arrangement or was it something else? And do you ever arrange pieces?
So a couple of things. The Christmas concert I did not conduct, and that was Darren, who used to be our principal French horn player and now works with us. And he has been a very nice addition to our team. So unfortunately, I wasn't conducting, but I'm very happy that you were happy about it. And and then no, that one wasn't me. But in terms of arranging or composing, I do some of that myself, but not quite so often. It just depends of if I always think that if I have something very specific to say, I will about a piece or over something that then I have to or arrangements also work for the different for access or if you have a smaller group or something like that to be able to facilitate different things. But yeah, I arrange sometimes, compose mostly, and in a different aspects, but that wasn't me. But we'll tell Darren about it.
Yeah. And it was a great concert.
Great, yeah.
It was a great concert. Other questions? Yes.
Beyond attending concerts, how are you hoping we as a community engage with you in your role?
Great question. I'm always available. That's the thing that I will really want to tell people. Though I don't live physically here, my first mean of communication is Monica, and you all know her and what an incredible human being she is, and creating all of these opportunities and building RSO. That for one part, but also when you come to the concerts, I'm gonna be there to just chat about it, and it's just a process that is just starting, right? It's my first season, but I'm really hoping to just keep creating relationships with the community, and I really appreciate that all of you are taking time of your day to just come and hear this crazy accent Latino to talk about something that he's passionate about. Because it's special, but creating that link with the community and especially with different, just to let people know that the orchestra, as I think it, as a service organization, I also want everybody from the different areas of the community to know that we're here to serve you, to want to hear your voice. And if you're a young professional, if you are a high school student, if you are in different areas of your life, we're just working on creating different places, and we're about to go into a strategic planning too, and that will give us more very specific venues to keep creating that. But I love your question, and yes, with Monica, we just keep creating these links with the community. But I'm just very excited to, even now, seeing how the demographics keep changing in the concert hall, and how the people that are coming, and just to really experience what music can provide. It's exciting, and I really enjoyed being able to, in the pre-concert talks, it is really a talk, we just chat about it. Remember in the guitar concerto, this woman was like, but what is a concerto? So what is the word concerto comes from? It comes from concertare, which is to be in agreement. between a soloist and an orchestra. That's what concerto comes from. But she had all the questions, and I love it. I want to invite you to you have a voice, and if I don't know something, I will very much tell you that I don't know it. We will learn together. But yes, this is for you, and yeah.
So one last question. I'm going to continue that conversation. So what about next year? I mean, this is a select group. I think we're all curious. We don't want to rush through the rest of this season, right? We want to enjoy every concert. And you talked a little bit about what's coming. But what ideas do you have for your second season?
I don't know.
Without making commitments. What are just some ideas that are percolating and you're thinking about for the second season without any commitment?
There will be music on stage. And there will be great musicians, and you're gonna love it.
Any
And if you, no, it's in the process. It's in the process. I think, as you mentioned, it's kind of like halftime right now. It's like we're in the middle of the season, and as I keep mentioning, I like to see what people have responded, like what people would like to do. So I don't work in a silo. I just don't do like, this is what it is and you have to like do it. But we just see what's happening. For instance, in April 7, we're gonna have a concert that is called American Landscapes. And it's tying it up to what the eclipse that is happening, that will be in April 8. And we're talking about composers like Dvorak and the New World Symphony, that he also was an immigrant, and then he came to the United States to be a composition teacher in the National Conservatory, creating this standard piece that everybody connects to in terms of like New World and the New World Symphony, or Aaron Copland in Appalachian Spring. And
one of my favorites.
Right?
One of my favorites.
So all of these are very kind of like calendar specific. Like I think the concert would have been different if there would not be an eclipse, or things that are different. So working with Monica is getting to know a lot of different places of things that are happening in the town, plus the dates that we can provide. So it's a little bit in order to keep being that intentional, in order to keep being relevant to what's happening. So it's a little bit premature, so I don't want to kind of give anything that I will not then be able to provide. So I just, but what I can tell you is my commitment to be respectful to the stage and to be able to promote the voices that are current voices and what's happening and this passion that orchestral music can bring to a community.
And what I know is it will be excellent quality.
Yeah.
That there will be tons of energy coming from the conductor, and that we will go away feeling even better than when we arrived. Something that I found consistent with you, and I'm grateful that you're here. Will you join me in thanking Maestro Andrés Lopera?
Thank you so much.
We are super fortunate to have Andres with us, but there's a team that goes around, that wraps around Andres and the RSO, from our board members that work in supporting the mission of the RSO. And you know, the RSO is more than just a stage. There's programs in the community, our community engagement, and then also, do you know Monica Koshlane? If not, let me introduce you to Monica. And Monica and Andres are a wonderful team. It was my pleasure to work with her when I was chair of the board, not only for what Monica does in support of the RSO, but what she does for the community. Let me say thank you.
Well, I'll end this evening. First of all, thanking you for being here. I have the pleasure of following three of my favorite people in Richmond: Sean Dingworth, Jeff Carter, and my new coworker and friend, Andrés Lopera. I hope you will join us at one of our concerts that's coming up, or possibly all three. Andrés has created a season where, believe it or not, our first concert was one of our most, what's the word we would use, calm? Because we're building until the end. In May 11th, we'll have nearly 80 musicians on the stage. So it's going to be quite a finale as we work towards the end.
Yeah.
What a joy it is to serve as the executive director of Richmond Symphony Orchestra for the past decade. I don't take my role lightly. Building the RSO to its greatest heights. It is hard to read around this microphone. I wondered why you were kind of like struggling. I'm sorry. I don't take my role lightly. Building the RSO to its greatest heights and forming strong collaborations with organizations such as Richmond Art Museum is key to our growth. In addition, Sean and I, along with our boards of directors, are charged with maintaining a focus on building our endowments to ensure that the RSO and Richmond Art Museum will be around for the next century. To follow Sean's theme, your Richmond Art Museum and your Richmond Symphony Orchestra exist because of the support of all of you. Your generosity ensures we maintain a strong focus on programming at extremely affordable costs and free to the youth of this region. One way to support Richmond Art Museum and Richmond Symphony Orchestra is to attend our 2 upcoming fundraisers, Palette to Palette on February 17th and the Wild Wild West on April 27th. Maybe I'm biased, but I will say that our 2 events are my favorite to attend in the year and premiere in this community and really show off this region. Lots of fun and always a good theme. And thanks to the generous vision of Ginger Franklin Gray, who has raised millions of dollars for the Richmond nonprofits over the past 40 years. So thank you. On a personal note, I want to thank Sean Dingworth, a brilliant executive director that took me under his wing 10 years ago when I had no idea what an executive director did. So thank you. I want to thank Jeff, the president of the board, for the past 2 seasons, managing the retirement of our past conductor, managing the search, and ushering in the future of the RSO with Andres. Thank you. And finally, my great appreciation for Andres, who has been such a bright spot in my life and the life of the RSO. We are truly collaborative partners, building the RSO together. Our trust and respect for each other improves daily. Thank you.
Thank you.
And finally, I want to end with thanking you for your love of the arts, your continued patronage, and all that you do to make this Richmond community special. It truly is a joy to see the arts be a focal point of the east side of Indiana. So thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your time and all of your support.